Hi guys, this is Donna with Love Rocks, and this week we've done a St. Patrick's Day gnome. So let's get started. First of all, I want to tell everybody who has subscribed, thank you very much for supporting our channel. We really appreciate it. Those of you who have not subscribed, please subscribe. It pushes our channel out there so that we can produce more videos. So I would really appreciate it if you take the time to subscribe. Also, when we put out a video, we give away the rock that is in the video, and that drawing is done by subscriptions and comments. So in order to be in the drawing, you must subscribe or already be a subscriber and comment in the comments below this video, and you will be in the drawing. The drawing for this rock should be in about 3 days. I usually run it anywhere from 2 to 4 days, and it'll probably be about 3 days. I'll put it in the description. Also, I want to tell everybody that after the video is done, please check your comments. I'm having trouble getting a hold of some of the people who have been drawn in the drawings prior to this one. So make sure that you come back and check your comments to make sure. That's the only way I have to get a hold of some of these people. Okay, let's move forward. So this is our St. Patrick's Day gnome. I have a second one that will also be coming out, but for today, we're doing this one. If you have never done one of my paintings, I want to remind you that you can always pause it at the beginning of the video, and then you can use that drawing to base your drawing off of. You can pause it anytime during the video as well. I make these videos as short as possible so that people don't get bored watching them. But when I start off with a video, because I video the entire process, my videos are sometimes 2 hours long, and there's no way I can put that whole thing out there. So you're seeing the highlights of that painting as you're watching it. So just know that you can pause it and take a look and make sure that you're at the same spot in your own painting as you're doing it. I appreciate everybody's comments, and I would love to have more comments out there as to things that you'd like to see. I think my next video, I'd like to do one more Valentine video. So I would also like to do something that's not a gnome. So I will probably be doing like a turtle or something like that, one of the easier ones, and I'll make it a Valentine one, and I'll get that out here in a few days. So let's see. Shading. Oh my gosh, this hat was so much fun to shade. Basic colors. I used a dark green, which I show in the video, and a light green. I used black and a little bit of white, and I put in the dark shading around the edges and across the top. Definitely on the hat, I also put in some shading, and then I highlighted it down the middle, across the top, and across the brim. It really makes that hat pop out when you do that. I also use a very, very, very tiny amount of water around the edges of those colors where those colors are coming together, and it will give you a more blended look if you can do that. You have to play with it. It's not something that you're the first time you do it, it's going to work. So play with it. That's what painting rocks is for hiding, is to play with some of these processes and some of these ways of doing things so that you get it down to very easily maneuverable things when you get to painting your rocks that you want to keep. So that's what I do to make sure the blend. I don't think I've showed it yet. No. When you get to the bottom of the hat, you have to go dark. I think I actually went black at the very underneath of the hat. That black shows that it disappears. It goes all the way under the gnome's head. And so you really want that. It gives it more of a realistic look. So just make sure that you keep that in the back of your mind as you're doing it. As far as the little black belt, I did highlight it and give it a little bit of highlight around the edges, just to show that that belt was on top of the hat. Make sure that that highlight is only on the top, not down towards the bottom. That bottom needs to be as dark as possible. And then the buckle, also, I tried to get it as highlighted and shadowed as I could. But I will tell you that that buckle, this is only a 2x2 rock. It's a very small rock. And so that buckle is as about the size of a eraser, maybe a little bit smaller than a pencil eraser. I think it might be smaller than a pencil eraser. So you really have to get in there and be very careful not to smudge the edges of that buckle, because that buckle needs to look, it's a piece of metal. And it needs to be a perfect square, and it needs to be nice edges. And so you don't want to mess that up by trying to get your shading and highlights in there too heavy. So do shade it and highlight it. Just be very careful not to make that buckle too big. And then the brim, you know, you want that edge very crisp and very light colored. It makes it pop out, that very edge. And then you want the underneath to be dark. And shaded back. So you start with the green and then you shade it back and let it blend into almost a black. And that is how you get depth on the hat. I went back in. I always do this when I get done with my my paintings. I'll go back and look at it a little more critically to see if there's any areas that need to be darkened. And I think I actually darken the top of the hat just a little bit more at the very end of this video. The nose, I always use the camel, which is a taupe color, and baby pink, and then a little bit of red. It gives it a really nice flesh color. I like that combination. So you want it to be very dark at the very top because you're right under that brim, and it needs to have the illusion that that brim of the hat is casting a shadow across the very edge of it. And then you want it very dark at the bottom and around at least the left side. That's the one I usually do, is the left side. That will give it a roundness as it's showing that it's disappearing towards the face. So, you know, dark, dark, dark. And then I will take the white, or even white with a tiny bit of pink in it, and I will put that right on the edge of the right-hand side of the nose and up towards the top, and that'll be my shiny spot. Again, I use the water for blending on that small of an area. Very, very, very small amount of water, and you'll drop that on there. I wouldn't even say a full drop, just a tiny bit. Too much and you're going to have a mess. So practice that on other things. I also practice on paper. You know, if I'm doing something that I need to learn how to do some detail to, and doing it on a rock is just too small, I will do it on a piece of paper. I have matte paper, black matte paper, and I will practice it on it on a bigger version until I get it down, until I get it figured out. And then I can always go back and do it in a very small version on my rocks. But in my head, I've figured out how I want that to look. So you can always do that as well. I don't know if we've discussed doing transposing pictures. One of the ways that you can transpose a picture off of my videos is to pause the video when the picture is done, or you can do it on the sketch at the very beginning of the video. Take a picture of that off of your TV with your cell phone. And then there are apps out there. There are apps that you can pay for, and there are apps that are free that you can download on your phone, and then you put that picture into that app. You hold your phone over your rock, and it will project the picture onto your rock. Then you take your pencil and you sketch the projected picture. I have that app on my phone. I use it for things that are alive. When I did my Highland cows, I was having trouble getting the eyes just right. With things that are alive, animals, people, dogs, anything like that, if you don't have the eyes proportioned or in the right spot in comparison to the nose, the ears, the top of the head, anything like that, it is going to throw your picture off. I don't care how good of a painter you are, an artist you are. If your spacing is not correct, if your placement of the eyes, the nose, the ears, things like that is not correct, it is not going to look right. I don't care how good you are with shading. I don't care how good you are with putting in hair. It is not going to look right. So this video projection or picture projection app, very simple app, it works really nice. If I come up with something that I want to paint, I might use 4 or 5 different pictures to figure out what it is I want to paint. So let me give you an example for this. I liked this hat and I found it on a stuffed animal that I had seen on one of the groups. I liked the beard off of something I saw on Pinterest. I liked the placement of the clover from something that I saw in a whole nother group. So I took those 3 pictures and put them together in my mind to come up with my rock. If you're doing that, that's great, but especially if you're pulling different pictures from different items from different places, you want to make sure that you have things where they belong. So if you're doing that with my Highland cow, with the mammoth, and you're looking at more than one picture, you need to make sure that your placement is good. And using that app will really help you to make sure that you've got that placement. It's not necessarily, I guess you definitely could use it to completely copy a picture. But I use it so that I get my proportions right. You can make the picture bigger or littler so that you can line up. I really like it for lining up ears. Ears, if you get an ear off, your picture's not going to look right. So I like it to really use it to line up my ears. Eyes, you've got a little more leeway with an eye, but ears, you don't really have much of a leeway. So anyways, I will put a link to the app that I use in the description, so you'll have it. We haven't talked about supplies for a while, so let's talk about supplies. I am still using I hope I'm saying this right, Benicci brushes, Benicci. Benicci. And I use them, they're detail brushes, and I get them off of Amazon. I think you get, 8 or 10 for like $15. And I really like the way they feel. I also use a very cheap set of brushes that I got at, I think the ones I'm currently using, I got at like Hobby Lobby or something. So try different things until you find the one that you like. If you watch 20 tutorials, you'll get 20 opinions. It comes down to what's comfortable for you and what you like and what's available. Across the country, I'm amazed at how many different things I see in tutorials that aren't even available in this area. So, of course, Amazon makes it easier to make things more available, throughout the country. But locally, sometimes it's easier if you have something local, especially paints, where you can go down and actually look at them. I use folk art paint. I try to use multi-purpose only because of preference. Multi-purpose seems to stick to my rocks better, seems to cover my rocks better, seems to stay on my rocks better. Is it the best? I have no idea. I like it. So you'll have to try different ones until you find the one that you like. Also, folk art paint multi-purpose is super readily available to me. I have like 4 places within a couple of miles that I can get those paints. So if there's something that a specific color that I'm looking for, I have options. I don't want to pick something that I can only get off of Amazon and I'm going to have to order it and hope that when it gets here, it's the right color. So that's brushes and paints. I do use a spray sealer. So I do have resin. I like resin, I guess, but I'm more comfortable with the spray sealer. It's easy, it's fast, it's inexpensive. I can tell you 1,000 reasons why I like it better. So anyways, I use the spray sealer most of the time. I use a multitude of different ones. I think the one I'm using right now is Krylon Fusion All-in-One Clear Sealer. It's a high gloss. You can get it at any hardware store. I also have gotten a couple of different ones in craft stores. Some do tend to yellow a little bit, but for the most part, I use whatever I can pick up. I will tell you there's an art to doing it. Let your paint dry completely before you spray. Completely. That doesn't mean you have to let it sit for 4 days. It means let it dry completely, maybe an hour after you get done painting, in a nice area that's got some good airflow. And then spray your paint very lightly. You're not looking for coverage. You're not looking for anything but just a light coat. Let that dry for at least 12 hours. You're setting that paint. You've got paint underneath. You've got your gloss on top. I let mine set at least 12 hours, if not 24 hours. Then I will go back. I will sign the back of my rock. I will put the date on it, the number on it, let that dry, and then I'll spray the back very lightly. I let that dry overnight. Then I will go and I will put 2 or 3 more coats on it, a little heavier. Be careful not to let it run. When I say heavy, I mean just nicely covered, but don't do it so heavy that it starts to run. Well, guys, there he is. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stuck with us through the whole thing, and we will see you for the next one. Bye now.